time, monster. You don't belong in this world.
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. But enough talk. How about you?
Snore.
Imagine, if you will, that you're at a new restaurant that just opened up in town. You're curious, excited, and you wonder what sort of dishes this new place has to offer. You don't want to waste your money on something too extravagant, so you play it safe and order something simple like a sandwich, a burger, maybe even some chicken tendies. Something so simple and good that you know has a very low risk of messing up. Well, you order your meal. It's the chicken tendies and you wait for your plate. Then suddenly, voila, they're right there in front of you, all steamy and decent with a savory scent. Only, you realize it's just that. It's just the tendies. There's no sauce, no side dish, no spices, compliments, not even a simple drink to accompany the dish. There's nothing else. It's strange, right? The tendies themselves look decent and satisfying at a first glance, but then you take the first bite and the excitement and curiosity immediately drains from you. The tendies are not crispy, but they're rock hard. They taste bland and dry. Real dry. The more you chew on the tendies, the more they start tasting and feeling like dirt in your mouth. You weren't expecting much, but you definitely weren't expecting this. You feel upset and unsatisfied, hoping for something more, but you have this empty hole inside you and your stomach.
That's what this game is. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ultra H on the Nintendo Switch. I'm not gonna sugarcoat this or make this nice. This game is not good. It's not terribly bad, but it's not good either. A hack-and-slash combat game, Ultra H has you playing in the role of the blue-cladded Age exploring a desolate planet in the far-off future.
In the future!
You fight through hordes of enemies and bosses with various bladed weapons.
No!
Some of these have properties that work well against others, like katanas against organic enemies and claymores being effective against machines. You can level up your weapons and skills for more effective attacks and continuing inputs. With this, there's also a weapon break system similar to Zelda's Breath of the Wild.
Oh, come on!
Throughout the game, you'll collect crystals from enemies, rocks, and stations that act as ammo from the different weapons that you use. You also have this grapple hook that can be used to hook yourself and rush towards enemies, swing to higher locations, and even collect crystals from afar. Throughout the entire game though, you'll be going to a destination, get interrupted by enemies, fight, continue, get interrupted again, die, level up your skills, retry, and then reach the end of the stage or boss. That's pretty much the gist of it all. Rinse and repeat until the game ends.
It just goes on and on, my friend.
There's hardly any story to go with and explain here, but because there's not much information about this game, I'll do my best to explain what I can without mentioning any spoilers. Age and his AI friend Helvis work on an organization known as Orbit. Think of these guys as like the Space Military Defense Force. They've been tasked and dispatched to this desolate planet to explore and retrieve an ancient relic that seems quite important. Age and Helvis eventually get ambushed by someone and are now on a strict time limit to retrieve the relic and head back to the Orbit mothership.
We have to go back!
They need to discover why all communications with Orbit have been cut off and who's attacking them. That's pretty much all I can say without diving further into what I hesitate to call spoiler territory. And even then, the story is not as deep or as engaging as you would normally think. It's about as deep as a kiddie pool on a hot summer day. Well, it's definitely a game. If you like action and hack-and-slash games like Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, and Final Fantasy XV, then this game might be up your alley. The keyword being might. It's a fast-paced hack-and-slash that tries to give you a variety and choice of weapons for a smooth combat. And that's pretty much all it has to go for. Oh yeah, there are these two instances where the game sort of becomes a dungeon crawler.
What?
Beneath the two locations, there are these subterranean areas where you'll be going through chambers filled with enemies. You have to clear the enemies and go across other chambers to either find an exit or enter other areas. This is where things sort of got interesting because it turned the game into a sort of roguelike experience. Kinda like the game Let It Die, except the chambers aren't randomly generated. Unfortunately though, this is where my excitement and positives end. Okay, this game feels like both an unfinished product and a mobile gacha game in one. Not to say that it's unfinished, but it definitely feels like it. The controls aren't too terrible for the game, but there are some nitpicks that I have. The sprint trigger button is close to the weapon change shoulder button, which can sometimes cause some confusion and unintentional weapon changes. You use the sprint trigger button to dodge incoming attacks like in Bayonetta, but it doesn't make any sense. You have bladed weapons that are big enough to block and parry attacks. I see an opportunity missed here with the weapon break system, where blocking can cause your weapons to inch closer to the breaking point, but you can parry and counter for a high output damage before it shatters. The game is very empty, and I do mean empty. It makes Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days look very lively. At most, there's about 4 types of enemies, with most of them being variants of different colors. From what I remember, there's only about 2 organic enemies and the rest are just robots, with 6 different types of bosses that reuse most of them at near the end. All the enemies seem to soak up a lot of damage despite having most of the upgrades for each weapon. The game really wants you to perform these flashy finishing moves to easily dispose of them with massive damage. The story is very bland and hardly present. Like I mentioned before, it's very shallow and you can see and predict everything coming from a mile away.
I can sense you!
Outside of the character of Age, there are only about 4 or 5 other characters in the game that pretty much give a massive exposition dump to both Age and the player.
It's awful.
It's all awful!
I really don't know what this game tries and aims to be. It has the ideas and makings of something that could have been great but falls so flat on its face through its execution. I mean, the inspirations are clearly there, but there's a lot of stuff missing, like reworking for a better story, more characters, a better combat, and an upgrade system.
You ever come across a leaf and step on it, but no crunch? Disappointment.
It feels so shallow with a lot of missing content. I did do some research for this game, but there's honestly not much out there. It's published by Dangan Entertainment, which has a lot of great games under their portfolio. It has 2 developers under its belt, one being Next Stage Inc., the other being the Korean-based company Visual Dart, who primarily focus on creating visual assets. While I was playing the game, I wrote down notes that eventually became this review. I played and finished the main game in 2 days and had the following statements. Day 1. This is a low-budget Devil May Cry. Day 2. The game is now smoother but is still mid. I played for another day to experience the DLC and wrote this. Day 3. The DLC that could have been the game. So Ultra Age had one DLC that I think repurposed the game in a better manner that's way more enjoyable. Titled Project Rebirth, this DLC has Age stuck in an unknown facility. There, he must go through a series of 30 floors and reach the end to investigate what is going on, why he can sort of reincarnate, and figure out how it all ties to the main events of the game. The changes from the main game to the DLC are very minimal, but it's now aligned to be a more roguelike game, where you'll be defeating enemies in chambers and obtain upgrades for weapons and perks to make yourself more powerful through each floor. It's similar to games like Hades, Slay the Spire, or One Step from Eden. Still, despite the changes though, it's not an overall improvement to the base game as a whole. Yeah, I'll be honest and say that I got easily bored with the main game and the DLC. So much so that I actually started to listen to podcasts and videos while I was mindlessly mashing buttons in most of the fights. There are no combo chains or letter grading systems to let you know if you're doing well in combat or any flashy visuals to set off the satisfying happy hormones. It got to the point where I started thinking about how the game could have been repurposed as a classic 3D Castlevania-like game. You have the linear progression through the story, the dungeon crawling, the chamber clearing elements, the enemies, the grapple hook that can act as a whip, different weapons that can sometimes act as sub-weapons, crystals acting as ammo or weapon currency, minimal platforming, the weapon upgrade system, and some minimal characters. I would have loved it if the game was just that, but sadly this game is just stuck as a futuristic sci-fi hack and slash. Okay, this is not a bad game. It's just a total slugfest. A bad game warrants me hating most of the aspects that it has. This game does not make me hate anything. It just makes me feel like it's empty and missing a lot of the stuff with some potential. I don't know what I was expecting exactly from this game, but this was not it.
I expect nothing, and I'm still let down.
You could debate that it's an entry point to games like Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, and Final Fantasy XV, but don't go expecting a grand game with the same quality. It's definitely 2 steps below that. The controls are mid at best, and again, it plays like a budget and mobile gacha game. It has ideas that could have worked had they been executed and polished a bit better, but it falls flat as it is. Props to the small team that made this game though. I hope that one day they'll be able to make the game that they first envisioned. Still, even if the DLC is slightly better than the main game, I won't be replaying or continuing this anytime soon. Thank you all for watching. I know this has been a very short review. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. I'm Ed. This was Ultra Age. This game sapped my enthusiasm. I need a rest, I need a break, and a palate cleanser from this game. See ya.